It's been over half a century since we first climbed that mountain, and the transformation of the Walton cast is nothing short of breathtaking. While some stars are still shining bright, others have vanished from the public eye entirely. Get ready to witness the aging process like never before. From the youngest children to the patriarchs, see who is still with us and who we've sadly lost. Mary Beth McDonough as Erin Walton. Born on May 4, 1961 in Van Nuys, California, the young actress first brought Erin to life in the 1971 television movie The Homecoming: A Christmas Story, before starring in the long-running series. At the age of 10, McDonough's portrayal of the sensitive and headstrong middle daughter became a fixture of 1970s television, offering viewers a poignant look at a young woman coming of age during the Great Depression and World War II. For 9 seasons, her heartfelt performance resonated with a national audience, solidifying the Walton family as a cultural touchstone of resilience, wholesome values, and familial love. Despite the character's idyllic, wholesome coming of age, Mary Beth McDonough was internally fraught with anxiety and insecurity, experiencing a reality that was a stark contrast to the simplicity of her television family. This contrast became a significant part of her personal journey. The overwhelming expectation to be perfect for the cameras led to crippling body image issues, extreme dieting, hair loss, and an ulcer by her teenage years. Her career was also marked by the struggle of being typecast, which made it exceedingly difficult for her to find work and transition into mature roles after the series concluded. Driven by industry pressure to reinvent her child star image, she underwent silicone breast augmentation, a decision that ultimately caused severe long-term health complications, including a battle with lupus and fibromyalgia. She continued to act sporadically and landed a recurring role on The New Adventures of Old Christine, but faced a professional sting when the show was abruptly canceled in 2010, halting her steady television comeback. Mary Beth McDonough continued to work in the entertainment industry for decades, eventually expanding her talents behind the camera and becoming a vocal advocate for women's health. She authored the 2012 memoir, Lessons from the Mountain: What I Learned from Erin Walton, and directed projects like the 2023 Hallmark movie, A Biltmore Christmas. Throughout the 80s and 90s, she frequently reprised her famous role in a series of Waltons made-for-TV reunion movies. In her personal life, she navigated a divorce from her first husband, Rob Wickstrom, with whom she shares a daughter before marrying Don Couch in 2011. At 64, she remains an active and inspiring figure, successfully transforming her early Hollywood hardships into a resilient, empowering legacy, while continuing to cherish her enduring connection to her former castmates. Cotler as Elizabeth Walton. Born on June 17, 1965 in Long Beach, California, the young actress first brought Elizabeth to life in the 1971 television movie The Homecoming: A Christmas Story, before starring in the beloved weekly series. At the age of 6, Cotler's portrayal of the youngest, spunkiest Walton sibling became a cultural touchstone, offering a deeply comforting depiction of family life and childhood innocence during the Great Depression. For 9 seasons and several subsequent television movies, her natural charm helped define a character that remains a universally recognized symbol of wholesome Americana. Despite the character's folksy rural upbringing and extroverted innocent charm, Cotler was a modern California girl who felt increasingly disconnected from the intense spotlight of Hollywood. This contrast was a major factor in her personal journey. While Elizabeth was perfectly content growing up on Walton's mountain, Cotler found the pressures of child stardom restrictive. She was also keenly aware of the professional hardships ahead. Child actors notoriously face typecasting, and she realized it would be incredibly difficult to find work that didn't just view her as the youngest Walton. Choosing to avoid the painful struggle of fighting for diverse adult roles in an industry that had already boxed her in, she boldly stepped away from acting entirely to pursue higher education and a normal private life. Cotler went on to attend the University of California, Berkeley, where she earned a degree in social sciences and discovered a lifelong passion for education. In a fitting full-circle moment, She began her teaching career working with at-risk youth in rural Virginia near the very county that inspired the Waltons before returning to California. There, she served as the founding principal of Environmental Charter Middle School and later became the director of strategic initiatives for the Charter Network. She married Kim Howard, and together they have 2 children, Callan and Cotton. At 60, she continues her vital work as an educational leader and consultant, while still occasionally reuniting with her former castmates to celebrate the enduring legacy of the show that introduced her to the world. David W. Harper as Jim Bob Walton. Born on October 4, 1961 in Abilene, Texas, the young actor first brought Jim Bob to life in the 1971 television pilot movie The Homecoming: A Christmas Story, before continuing the role in the acclaimed series. At the age of 10, Harper's portrayal of the youngest Walton son, a quiet, mechanically inclined boy with a deep fascination for aviation and inventions, became a beloved fixture of 1970s television. For 9 seasons, his earnest performance captured the innocence and curiosity of youth, cementing Jim Bob as an integral part of a cultural touchstone that offered audiences a heartwarming, resilient vision of American family life during the Great Depression. In contrast to his on-screen persona as a carefree, highly interactive youth in a bustling household, David W. Harper was naturally a much more private, reserved individual who found the intense spotlight of child stardom to be quite challenging. Growing up surrounded by adults on a Hollywood set meant his real life was vastly different from the grounded, simple upbringing depicted on Walton's Mountain. His professional journey was also fraught with the classic struggle of child actors, the heavy burden of being typecast. After the Waltons came to an end in 1981, following 9 seasons, Harper found it exceedingly difficult to secure new acting work, as casting directors struggled to see him as anyone other than Jim Bob. This lack of diverse opportunities and the frustration of being permanently pigeonholed ultimately pushed him away from the entertainment business. After stepping away from the camera, David W. Harper pursued a quiet everyday life, returning to school to study business and working a variety of jobs, ranging from a scenic painter and art dealer to an employee at a messenger delivery service owned by his former television brother, Eric Scott. While he largely retired from acting, he did briefly return to reprise his famous role in several Waltons made-for-TV reunion movies throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Harper has kept the details of his personal life entirely out of the press, honoring his lifelong desire for privacy. At 64, Harper remains happily retired from show business and continues to live out of the public eye, though he still occasionally joins his former castmates at memorabilia fairs and fan events to celebrate the enduring legacy of his television family. Ralph Waite as John Walton Sr. Born on June 22, 1928 in White Plains, New York, the former Marine and ordained minister found his defining calling on the Waltons. At the age of 44, Waite's portrayal of the hard-working and morally upright patriarch of a large rural Virginia family became a profound cultural touchstone. Throughout the show's 9-season run, John Walton Sr. represented the ultimate symbol of the steadfast American father, guiding his family through the Great Depression and World War II with a steady compassion, resilience, and traditional values that comforted millions of viewers. Despite the character's gentle, sober, and responsible nature, Ralph Waite was privately battling severe personal demons and described himself as a wild man during the early years of the show. Struggling with intense alcoholism, he frequently drank heavily between scenes, creating a massive contrast between his turbulent real life and the wholesome patriarch he played on television. Feeling like a hypocrite while sitting at the fictional Walton family table, Waite eventually credited the show with saving his life, as the responsibility of the role pushed him to join Alcoholics Anonymous and get completely sober in the mid-1970s. Professionally, Waite also experienced the heavy burden of being typecast. For years after the show ended, he struggled to break free from the Pa Walton image. Finding it difficult to land diverse roles that didn't simply mimic his famous fatherly persona, he even temporarily pivoted his career into politics, running unsuccessfully for a California congressional seat 3 times during the 1990s. Ralph Waite continued acting well into his 80s, finding a late career resurgence by embracing the father figure typecasting he once fought. He landed beloved recurring roles as Jackson Gibbs on NCIS and Seeley Booth's grandfather on Bones, and he also returned to his religious roots after a 50-year absence to become an active member of a Presbyterian fellowship. Waite passed away at his home in Palm Desert, California on February 13, 2014 at the age of 85 from age-related natural causes. His death was deeply felt in the television community. His passing was subsequently written into the storyline of NCIS to explain his character's absence, and the show's season 11 finale was poignantly dedicated to his memory. Eric Scott as Ben Walton, born on October 20th, 1958 in Los Angeles, California. The young actor first brought his iconic character to life in the 1971 television movie The Homecoming: A Christmas Story, before the beloved series The Waltons officially premiered the following year. At the age of 13, Scott's portrayal of the mischievous, entrepreneurial, and often impulsive middle child Ben Walton became an integral part of a massive television phenomenon. The show became a cultural touchstone that offered audiences a heartwarming, nostalgic look at a family's resilience and enduring bonds during the Great Depression. For 9 seasons and several reunion movies, his character's get-rich-quick schemes and growth into a dependable family man resonated with millions, cementing Ben as a highly recognizable figure of 1970s television. Despite playing a character known for being impulsive, prone to trouble, and later described by Scott himself as an idiot who made poor choices, Eric Scott was actually grounded, deeply responsible, and a hard worker who was kept strictly in line by his supportive parents. This sharp contrast made his real-life trajectory quite different from Ben's dramatic on-screen antics. However, his professional journey was not without immense struggles. Behind the scenes, the younger cast members faced intense pressure, felt largely unappreciated, and were notably underpaid by the studio. When the series and its subsequent specials finally came to a close, Scott was met with the harsh reality of typecasting and a sudden evaporation of acting opportunities. The inability to find work sent him into a difficult period of depression where he spent a year languishing at home, struggling to cope with his stalled TV career and the dissolution of his first marriage. Realizing that Hollywood had moved on, Eric Scott eventually stepped away from the entertainment industry entirely to forge a new path in the business world. He navigated severe personal tragedy along the way, including the devastating loss of his second wife, Teresa, to leukemia in 1992, just days after the birth of their daughter. He later found enduring happiness marrying his third wife, Cynthia, in 2001, with whom he expanded his family. Swallowing his pride to leave fame behind, he initially took an entry-level courier job and eventually worked his way up to owning and operating Chase Messengers, a successful parcel delivery service in the Los Angeles area. At 67, he is happily retired from acting and remains a dedicated businessman, husband, and father who occasionally reunites with his former castmates to celebrate the legacy of their television family. Judy Norton as Mary Ellen Walton. Born on January 29, 1958 in Santa Monica, California, the young actress began her journey as the eldest daughter of the Walton clan. At the age of 14, Norton's portrayal of Mary Ellen Walton became deeply beloved and culturally significant. Her character evolved from a rebellious, headstrong tomboy into a dedicated nurse wife and mother, resonating with audiences as an early representation of a fiercely independent young woman navigating the Great Depression and World War II. For 9 seasons, her performance contributed to a television show that became a definitive, heartwarming pillar of American pop culture. Despite the phenomenal success of the series, growing up in the public eye as part of a famous, wholesome television family brought significant challenges. Norton found herself heavily typecast as the quintessential good girl, making it incredibly difficult for her to secure mature or edgy roles in Hollywood after the series ended. In a drastic and controversial attempt to shed her restrictive image and break free from the enduring shadow of Mary Ellen, she posed nude for Playboy magazine in August 1985. While the move successfully shocked audiences and definitively shattered her innocent child star persona, it also sparked considerable backlash from the show's conservative fan base and did not immediately result in the diverse acting opportunities she had hoped for, illustrating the intense professional hardship of outgrowing a childhood television phenomenon. Over the subsequent decades, Norton demonstrated resilience by diversifying her career beyond acting, finding fulfillment in writing, directing, singing, and stage theater. She remained deeply connected to her television roots, participating in several Waltons reunion movies in the 1980s and 1990s, and later launching a highly successful YouTube channel where she shares behind-the-scenes insights and episodic breakdowns with loyal fans. She has been married to her fourth husband, Robert Graves, since 2002 and has a son from a previous marriage. At 68, she is still actively engaging with her fan base, celebrating the enduring legacy of the show while enjoying a stable and multifaceted career in the entertainment industry. Earl Hamner Jr. as the narrator. Born on July 10, 1923, the Schuyler, Virginia native first brought his childhood memories to life by creating and narrating The Waltons. At the age of 49, Hamner's portrayal as the adult reflective voice of John Boy Walton became a cultural touchstone, offering a prime-time depiction of a resilient, close-knit Appalachian family weathering the Great Depression and World War II. For 9 seasons, his warm, whiskey-tinged Virginia drawl and nostalgic storytelling provided the moral and emotional anchor for a hit series defining a character that remains one of television's most iconic and comforting figures. Despite the character's idyllic, nostalgic lens, Earl Hamner Jr.'s real-life experiences were shaped by much harsher economic realities than the sometimes rose-colored View network television demanded. While he shared his narrator alter ego's gentle, gentlemanly nature, he faced significant professional hardships behind the scenes. His career was deeply impacted by the struggle of being heavily typecast. As television trends shifted away from wholesome family dramas toward more cynical content, network executives pigeonholed him as a purveyor of simple rural stories. When television opportunities dried up following the show's run, he found it increasingly difficult to pitch new ideas or find work in an industry that assumed he was unable or unwilling to write the newly saleable material of the era. Earl Hamner Jr. ultimately pushed back against his typecasting by successfully creating and producing the Machiavellian primetime soap opera Falcon Crest, which ran from 1981 to 1990, and proved he could write deeply flawed, scheming characters. He continued to write novels and produce television programs, enjoying a quiet, personal life anchored by his 61-year marriage to his wife, Jane, with whom he shared 2 children. He remained a beloved literary and television figure, actively engaging with fans through a blog well into his twilight years. Hamner passed away at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, California on March 24, 2016, at the age of 92, following a battle with bladder cancer. His death was mourned globally by generations of fans who found comfort in his storytelling, and his legacy was later permanently honored when a bronze statue of him was unveiled in his hometown of Schuyler in 2023 to commemorate his centennial birthday. Joe Conley as Ike Godsey. Born on March 3, 1928, the Buffalo, New York native spent decades taking on bit parts before finding his signature role on the beloved family drama, The Waltons. At the age of 44, Conley's portrayal of Ike Godsey, the kindly storekeeper and postmaster of Walton's Mountain, became a cultural touchstone. For 9 seasons, his general store served as the social and economic center of the rural Virginia community, offering a warm, nostalgic depiction of Depression-era and World War II America. His good-natured performance defined a character that remains one of television's most recognizable and comforting small-town figures. Despite playing a modest, folksy shopkeeper, who was often henpecked by his fictional wife, Beth Joe Conley, was a shrewd, highly successful businessman in real life. Long before landing his breakout role, he had started a second career running real estate agencies in the San Fernando Valley, eventually becoming quite wealthy, a stark contrast to Ike's simple rural livelihood. His acting career had previously languished in limbo for 20 years, with minor guest spots before the Waltons saved him from obscurity. However, the immense popularity of the show led to severe typecasting. As Conley himself noted to millions of viewers, he was exclusively Ike Godsey. This inescapable association made it difficult for him to secure diverse or substantial acting work once the series concluded in 1981, largely limiting his later career to scattered bit parts and Walton's television reunion movies. In his later years, Joe Conley continued to embrace his television legacy, proudly participating in 6 Waltons reunion movies throughout the 1980s and 1990s and publishing his autobiography, Ike Godsey of Walton's Mountain, in 2009. He remained devoted to his wife of 44 years, Louise, and their 4 children, largely stepping away from the Hollywood spotlight to focus on his family and his lucrative real estate ventures. Conley passed away at a care facility in Newbury Park, California, on July 7, 2013, at the age of 85, due to complications from dementia. His death prompted an outpouring of grief from his former co-stars, who affectionately took to social media to remember him, not just as a talented colleague, but as a beloved integral member of the Walton family circle. Michael learned as Olivia Walton. Born on April 9, 1939 in Washington, D.C., the stage-trained actress was cast as the steadfast matriarch of a rural Virginia family in The Waltons, after the role was initially originated by Patricia Neal in a television movie. At the age of 33, Learned's portrayal of Olivia Walton became a cultural touchstone, offering a prime-time depiction of quiet dignity, maternal strength, and unwavering faith during the Great Depression and World War II. For the show's first 5 seasons, she was billed as Miss Michael Learned to prevent viewer confusion over her gender. Her warm and grounded performance deeply resonated with audiences and earned her 3 Primetime Emmy Awards, cementing Olivia Walton as one of television's most beloved and iconic mothers. Despite playing a deeply religious, teetotaling, and happily married pillar of the community, Michael Learned's real life presented a stark contrast to her character. When she auditioned for the role, she was going through a painful divorce from her first husband and was privately struggling with alcoholism, a battle she successfully overcame by getting sober alongside her co-star Ralph Waite during the show's run. Professionally Learned eventually grew frustrated with the restrictive and repetitive nature of playing the morally perfect matriarch, feeling relegated to pouring coffee and offering folksy advice, which led her to leave the series after its 7th season. Escaping the typecasting of America's favorite mother proved challenging, and she later earned a reputation for being difficult on the set of her follow-up series Nurse, when she clashed with producers over script authenticity. She recently admitted that speaking her mind offended executives, contributing to a significant lull where she struggled to find prominent television work for nearly a decade. Learned eventually found her footing again by returning to her roots in the theater, touring in stage productions like Driving Miss Daisy, and taking on various soap opera and guest-starring roles on shows like Scrubs and General Hospital. In 2022, she introduced herself to a whole new generation of viewers with a chilling, critically acclaimed performance as Catherine Dahmer in the hit Netflix limited series Dahmer, Monster: The Jeffrey Dahmer Story. In her personal life, she navigated 4 marriages, most recently to lawyer John Doherty until his passing in 2025, and is a proud mother to 3 sons from her first marriage. At 87, Learned remains a revered figure in the entertainment industry, looking back on her storied career with no regrets and continuing to embrace the legacy of the role that changed her life. Ellen Corby as Esther Walton. Born on June 3, 1911 in Racine, Wisconsin, Ellen Corby began her Hollywood journey behind the scenes as a script girl before stepping in front of the camera. At the age of 60, she took on the role of Esther Grandma Walton in the 1971 television pilot movie The Homecoming: A Christmas Story, before the beloved series The Waltons officially launched the following year. Corby's portrayal of the fiercely practical, deeply devout, and quick-tempered matriarch became a cultural touchstone of television. For nearly a decade, her character dispensed tough love, moral fortitude, and her trademark catchphrase, "Good Lord," earning Corby 3 Emmy Awards and establishing Grandma Walton as the ultimate symbol of Depression-era family resilience. Despite her character's stern, highly conservative, and fiercely religious nature, Ellen Corby was remarkably different off-screen. In stark contrast to Esther Walton, Corby lived an unconventional and fiercely independent life. She was known to swear like a sailor, reportedly smoked cigarettes, and even practiced transcendental meditation. Throughout her career, she also struggled with the professional hardship of severe typecasting. Despite her versatility, it was notoriously difficult for her to find diverse roles, and she spent decades relegated to playing gossipy neighbors, nosy maids, or spinsters long before reaching old age. The most devastating setback to her career came in November 1976, when Corby suffered a massive stroke that paralyzed a side of her body and severely impaired her speech. Instead of being permanently written out or replaced, her real-life medical crisis was incorporated into the show's storyline, and Corby bravely fought her way back to the screen, delivering powerful performances despite the immense difficulty she faced in having to communicate without extensive dialogue. Ellen Corby's later years were marked by her ongoing health struggles, though she remained dedicated to her craft, returning to make occasional appearances in several Waltons reunion movies throughout the 1980s and 1990s. In her personal life, following a brief marriage to a film director early in her career, she lived quietly and spent her final decades out of the public eye with her longtime companion, Stella Lucetta. Corby passed away at the Motion Picture and Television Country House and Hospital in Woodland Hills, California, on April 14, 1999, at the age of 87 from natural causes stemming from complications of her previous strokes. Her remains were cremated and interred at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, leaving behind an indelible legacy as one of American television's most iconic and celebrated grandmothers. Will Geer as Zebulon Walton. Born on March 9, 1902 in Frankfort, Indiana, the versatile stage and screen actor famously took over the role of Grandpa Zebulon "Zeb" Walton for the television series The Waltons, replacing Edgar Bergen, who had originated the part in the pilot TV movie. At the age of 70, Geer's portrayal of the stubborn, affectionate, and folksy patriarch resonated deeply with audiences, offering a comforting symbol of familial resilience and wisdom during the Great Depression. His beloved performance brought him widespread mainstream fame late in life, cementing his status as one of television's most iconic grandfather figures, and earning him a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series in 1975. While Zebulon Walton was a traditional God-fearing mountain man, Will Geer's real life was markedly different and heavily rooted in radical social activism, labor organizing, and bohemian ideals. A member of the Communist Party and an early pioneer in the gay rights movement, Geer's progressive politics and defiance cost him dearly during the McCarthy era. In the early 1950s, he was blacklisted by Hollywood after invoking the Fifth Amendment and refusing to name names before the House Committee on Un-American Activities. This severe professional hardship barred him from mainstream film and television work for years, forcing him to sell his home and relocate his family to Topanga Canyon, California, where he survived by growing and selling vegetables. Out of this struggle, he founded the Will Geer Theatricum Botanicum, an open-air theater that served as a creative haven for other blacklisted artists. After his eventual return to mainstream Hollywood and the massive success of The Waltons, Geer continued to work on the series until his final days. He passed away in Los Angeles, California on April 22, 1978, at the age of 76, due to respiratory failure shortly after completing the show's 6th season. His passing deeply affected the cast and fans alike, prompting producers to write his death into the script. Grandpa Zeb was movingly mourned on screen in the Season 7 premiere, The Empty Nest. Geer's ashes were buried in the Shakespeare garden of his beloved Theatricum Botanicum, a thriving cultural center that his family continues to operate today, cementing a profound legacy that transcends his iconic television role. Richard Thomas as John Boy Walton. Born on June 13, 1951 in Manhattan, New York, the actor first brought the earnest, aspiring writer John Boy to life on the beloved family drama The Waltons. At the age of 21, Thomas's portrayal of the eldest son of a Depression-era Virginia mountain family became a cultural touchstone, offering a prime-time depiction of wholesome values, resilience, and literary ambition that deeply resonated with audiences. For 5 seasons, his heartfelt performance and the iconic pop culture sign-off, Goodnight John Boy, defined a character that remains one of television's most enduring figures of Americana. Despite the character's rural Depression-era upbringing, Richard Thomas was a quintessential city dweller born to prominent ballet dancers and raised in the heart of the New York arts scene, a stark contrast to the barefoot mountain boy he portrayed. This contrast played a significant part in his professional journey, as he eventually chose to leave the hit show after 5 seasons to avoid being permanently defined by the role. His career was marked by the struggle of being heavily typecast, making it challenging for him to convince casting directors to see him as anything other than the innocent, wholesome John Boy. To break free from the squeaky clean image that overshadowed his versatility, he deliberately sought out darker, more complex roles in theater and television. Richard Thomas continued to work extensively in television, film, and theater, proving his range over a career spanning decades. He delivered memorable performances in projects like the 1990 miniseries adaptation of Stephen King's It, the acclaimed FX drama The Americans, and the hit Netflix series Ozark, while also finding massive success on stage, notably touring nationally as Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. Personally, he is a father of 5, including triplet daughters from his first marriage, and has been married to his second wife, Georgiana Bischoff, since 1994. As of 2026, at the age of 74, he remains an active and highly respected veteran of the acting community, having successfully transcended his early typecasting while still embracing the enduring legacy of the character that made him a household name. As we look back at the faces that felt like our own neighbors on Walton's Mountain, it is clear that while time changes everyone, the values they instilled remain timeless. These actors did not just play roles. They became a part of our childhood memories. Which transformation surprised you the most, and who was your favorite character growing up? Share your stories in the comments below, and do not forget to subscribe for more journeys down memory lane.